The Global Hunger Index of 2024 states that a serious level of hunger is prevalent in India. India ranks 105th out of 127 countries in Global Hunger Index.
Modi's hunger for power comes at a heartbreaking cost. He has devastating rank of 105 out of 127 countries in
having a score of 27.3. Now a score below 9.9 indicates low level of hunger. A score from 10 to 19.9 indicates a moderate level of hunger. A score from 20 to 34.9 indicates a serious level of hunger, and a score above 35 indicates alarming and extremely alarming levels of hunger. And India is under the serious category with a score of 27.3.
जब राशन है ना तो कहाँ से बनाएंगे थे?
स्कूल बंद था लॉकडाउन में, तब खाना पीना कुछ नहीं मिलता।
खर्चा चला कर पैसा जुटाऊंगा ना, तब माँ वो भूखा नहीं रहेगी।
Now, this analysis also demonstrated that India has shown a significant political will while tackling the hunger problem in India. And also it pointed out to several programs launched by Indian government, including National Food Security Act, including Poshan Abhiyan, National Nutrition Mission, PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, and National Mission for Natural Farming as well. But this report also suggested that there still exists a lot of room for improvement. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh. You're watching Perspective, and today's topic is hunger crisis in India. Now, Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, it has defined hunger as the habitual or chronic consumption of low calories, that is too few calories which are very few to provide you minimum dietary energy which an individual requires to live a very healthy and productive life. So that is hunger according to FAO. Now, hunger is an uncomfortable and painful physical sensation which is caused by insufficient consumption of calories in your day-to-day lives and insufficient consumption of caloric energy as well. And it is one of the significant and most important manifestations of poverty and inequality in the globe. Now, hunger can be of different types. First one is acute hunger. That means maximum level of hunger and supreme level of undernourishment. The most extreme form of hunger which can arise due to crises like droughts, famines, and several other catastrophic events. Second type is chronic hunger. That means hunger which is prevalent for a long period of time. That is long-term undernourishment amongst the people. That is chronic hunger. And there is one more form of hunger which very few people talk about, and that is hidden hunger. That means consuming too few nutrients. People are consuming calories, but they are not consuming required nutrients like zinc, iron, iodine, different types of vitamins and different type of minerals as well. So when there is nutritional deficiency, it can lead to hidden form of hunger which is not prevalent on the face, which is not prevalent prima facie, but is there in a hidden form. Now, to track this hunger, to measure this hunger, there is one index, that is Global Hunger Index. Now, it is a tool to comprehensively measure and comprehensively track hunger at a global, regional and national levels. And it is a peer-reviewed report which is published on annual basis by two organizations. One is Wealth Hunger Life and another is Concern Worldwide. And this Global Hunger Index scores, they are based on four prominent indicators. One indicator is undernourishment, one is child stunting, one is child wasting, and the last one is child mortality. Now, under undernourishment, what is seen is the share of the population who is having insufficient caloric intake. That means people who are not getting nourished properly and not having proper caloric requirements on a daily level. And 13.7% of India's population is undernourished, which is a very high number. And second indicator is child stunting. That means share of the children who are under the age of 5 who are having low height with respect to their age. So what height ideally they should have with respect to a certain age, the height remains low. And it would be a very startling fact for you that in India, 35.5% of the children below the age of 5 suffers with this child stunting, which is alarmingly very, very high. And it indicates chronic level of undernourishment prevalent in our country. The third indicator is child wasting. Now, it is the share of children who are under the age of 5 with having low weight with respect to their height. So certain people, certain children who should have an ideal weight with respect to certain level of height, the weight is low, which again reflects acute form of undernourishment and chronic undernourishment as well. And in India, child wasting rate is highest with respect to the global levels. That means 18.7% of the children under the age of 5 are suffering from child wasting, which is again a very serious problem. And the last one is child mortality. That means children who are under the age of 5, they are dying prematurely. Now, this child mortality can be a reflection of a lot of things coming together. That means unhealthy diets for the children, also inadequate nutrition among the children, and also different other health factors or health problems arising out of these two things. And in India, the child mortality rate below the age of 5 is 2.9%, again, which is very high number comparative to the global average. Now, based on the values of these 4 indicators, a global hunger index score is calculated on a 100 points scale, which reflects the severity of hunger existing in that particular country. And 0 is considered, of course, the best possible score, where there is 0 hunger in the country, and 100 is the worst possible score, citing maximum level of hunger. And as we know, countries are classified on the basis of severity from low to extremely alarming levels of hunger, but that is above the score of 50. Now, since we know about the Global Hunger Index, let's shift our focus towards India. Now, India definitely has significantly improved its child mortality levels as compared to 25 years back. So from 2000 till now, we have made a significant shift, we have made a significant improvement, but still there is a lot of room of improvement which still exists. While child mortality in India has reduced, the levels of child wasting and the levels of child stunting, still we are higher than the global average. And still, in a lot of countries in the world, a lot of countries who are aiming at $3 trillion, $5 trillion with respect to them, since we are the 5th largest economy in the world. With respect to that, this child stunting levels and child wasting levels, it is a very serious concern which we need to address immediately. Now, this report of Global Hunger Index, it also stated one more thing, that is the relationship between the GDP per capita and the levels of hunger in the country is not always direct and is not always guaranteed. So it does not always mean that if the GDP per capita income is increasing, the level of hunger would definitely go down. The correlation is not that direct. And it states that GDP growth alone is not sufficient enough to reduce the levels of hunger. That is why India's GDP is $3.7 trillion, but still hunger level is very high, and we are 105th in the 127 countries, and we are the 5th largest economy. So are they interrelated? Definitely the interrelation is not very direct. And thus the report suggested that it is very imperative to focus on different policies to eradicate hunger. It should be pro-poor development, and it should also be addressing the social and economic inequalities existing in the society. Now, as we all know, India is a home to 1.4 billion plus population, and it's one of the largest food producing nations in the world. That means we are the topmost producer, whether it comes to rice, whether it comes to cereals, whether it comes to wheat, whether it comes to maize, or whether it comes to milk or fruits and vegetables. We are the surplus nation, food surplus nation. After the Green Revolution in 1960s, 1970s, from food deficit to food surplus nation, the journey of India has been very long. But still, since we are food surplus nation, a lot of population in our country, more than 13% of the population is undernourished, which is again a very startling paradox. And despite achieving agricultural self-sufficiency, steadily increasing GDP, moving towards $5 trillion, $10 trillion, India finds itself engulfed in a serious hunger crisis, which is worsening year by year. And one thing you will be shocked to know is that more than 21.25% of the population lives less than $1.9 a day. So they are not even earning more than $1.9 a day, and this is alone enough to show you the level of inequality and poverty which is existing in our society, existing in our country. And it also shows us that social exclusion in our country is extremely high. Now, there are 2 more issues which are interrelated and intertwined with hunger. That is of food insecurity and malnutrition. Now, food insecurity can definitely lead to hunger. That means people might not have food to meet their basic and essential needs also. And food insecurity refers to lack of safe food or lack of access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food on the plate. An individual is not able to meet their daily dietary needs and preferences, which results into an inadequate and uncertain food intake at times as well. Now, FAO, it measures food insecurity using the Food Insecurity Experience Scale, FIES. And alongside one more issue is there, that is of malnutrition. Now, malnutrition is a condition where the body is not receiving adequate nutrients which it should to function in a proper way, to function in a very healthy way. So either it is quality or it is quantity also of the nutritions achieved by the body, nutrition received by the body, and that too absorbed by the body. See, receiving the nutrition is one thing, but if the body is not able to absorb those nutrients, absorb those nutrients, then also that hidden form of hunger and malnutrition will prevail. And there are different manifestations of malnutrition as well. And one form is protein hunger, which is a very common type of hunger where the body is not having sufficient dietary protein intake. And it can definitely lead to stunted growth, delayed development, and weakened immune system of the people also, and other catastrophic health problems. Another is micronutrient deficiencies, which people often ignore. And this happens when people do not get adequate vitamins, they don't get adequate minerals such as iron, iodine, vitamin A, and different other types of vitamins which are required by the body. And this can lead to anemia, blindness, impaired immune functions, and another different types of health problems as well. And third manifestation you can see in overnutrition also. That means when body is having too much calories and leading to obesity, it can lead to different health problems, which includes heart diseases, diabetes, poor lung functioning, poor liver functioning, fatty liver, and different other types of diseases as well. And last, as we all know, that is undernutrition, that is caloric deficiency, which we already saw in the introduction. And with this, we all get to know that hunger problem is not a problem which exists in silos. It's not a problem which is existing separately from the other problems. The issue of poverty, the issue of social economic exclusion, the issue of inequality, and the issue of hunger intertwined with malnutrition and food insecurity, all these things are existing all at once. And they are existing in an interrelated way. And if we need to address them, we need to have a holistic approach rather than having a parochial approach which is going after each of these variables. But before we discuss the solutions, let us quickly go through the reasons and why the hunger crisis in India is so prevalent and is so devastating. So basically, what are the reasons why hunger crisis in India has worsened over the years? And first reason which comes to my mind is the high levels of income inequality and high levels of poverty existing in our society. Now, India has been able to reduce the multidimensional level of poverty in the last 9 years and last 1 decade, but still the level of poor people in our country is still very, very high. Disparities definitely persists, and because of that, because of the virtue of being poor, people are not able to get access to good quality of food products. And if they get access to good quality of food products, the quantity is not sufficient. So the issue is both with quality and quantity, and this is by the virtue of the people being poor. So everything starts with people being poor. Because of poverty, it manifests into hunger, it manifests into malnutrition. But poverty is not the only reason. There is one more reason, that is comparative poverty, that means inequality. So World Inequality Report clearly suggested that 1% of the richest people in the country are having control over more than 40 to 50% of the national wealth. Now that is clear, but the poorest 90% of the population or poorest 50% of the population, they're having access to very less number of wealth, very less proportion of wealth, which shows that Gini coefficient in India is very skewed and is very bad. And this eventually also manifests into undernourishment, malnutrition, and extreme form of hunger, acute hunger, and chronic hunger. Also, one more issue which is very much related is that of over-dependence on agriculture. Now, more than 50% of our workforce is still dependent on agriculture, is still working in agriculture and allied activities. And because agriculture is not able to give high levels of returns, high levels of productivity, again, it leads to poverty. Reduced land ownership is there, fragmented land holdings are there, and also agricultural financing is very low, and there is over-reliance on monsoon, and there are low irrigation capacities. Because of that, agriculture sector is plaguing in itself, and it is turning people poor. And also their book, that is Poor Economics, a Radical Rethinking of the Way to Fight Global Poverty. Now in this book, Nobel laureates Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, they discuss the question of hunger in India is more about blaming the fall in non-market food sources and also luxury expenditures. So many times we miss out this point as well, which is highlighted by these Nobel laureates. And another issue and another reason because of which hunger manifests in different ways is inadequate public distribution system in our country. Now this PDS system, it is inadequate definitely, it is inefficient also, and it is mired by a lot of corruption, mired by a lot of supply chain shortages, and supply chain linkages weakens as well. There are leakages, there are corruptions, there are exclusions which still persists as a part of PDS. And because of that, the food which should reach to the intended beneficiary most of the time is not reaching. And because of that, we are not able to solve the hunger problem. And amongst all these reasons, the COVID-19 pandemic it increased and amplified these problems to a very greater level, to very greater heights. The migrant crisis we can't forget. And because during that period of time, such high levels of the population and of the country was on the streets, we could see that they were now having no money, they were having no resources, they were having no job, extreme form of poverty was there, and because of that, many people died due to hunger also. So it even worsened the problem which was existing before. And after that, recovering from those pandemic shocks has been difficult for our country with respect to health and food security. Also, many people feel that the issue is with shortages of food. The question is not about the shortage of food, but the dysfunctional food delivery system in our country. See, because India is a surplus producer, India's food grains are in a surplus production. That means the number of people we are having, we are producing more than what is required. So we are at a surplus. That means we are having enough food to feed our entire country. But then why hunger still persists? Because the food delivery and food spread, or let's say food allocation in the country is not efficient, and it is inefficient system. See, in India, wasting is also a problem. We see a lot of fruits, vegetables, and a lot of different food crops getting wasted because of inadequate cold storage, inadequate infrastructure, lack of proper logistics, lack of proper network, and proper supply chain management system also. There is inadequate supply chain management. And because of this, enormous volumes of food grains, which is close to 28%, and this leads to enormous volumes of food grains getting wasted, getting expired, and not being consumed by the people. And this is happening in a country where more than 13% of the population is still undernourished. And these data show us that India is still far behind to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal of zero hunger. Now, there are other reasons which directly or indirectly exacerbates this problem even further. It includes joblessness, definitely, social and gender inequalities existing in the society, lack of awareness about health, about nutrients, about hygiene, about health and other different factors also. And amongst all of these things, some external factors like climate change, global warming, and different wars which are happening in the world, they are even exacerbating the problem for the globe, for the whole world. And it definitely makes the poor population more vulnerable to these shocks to market volatility. And over expenditure on non-food items has increased over the years. That is why we discussed one point of luxury spending. See, people are shifting their budgets from food expenditure to non-food expenditure as well. So what they are doing is they are allocating their resources to non-food expenditure more. And because of this conspicuous consumption culture and luxury consumption culture, they might be buying an iPhone, but they might not be having 3 meals a day, 3 proper balanced diet meals a day. They might be buying an iPhone on EMI, but they won't spend money or they won't allocate those resources for proper food, for proper dietary intake. That is also one major problem and one major reason. Now, since it is very clear that why hunger problem has worsened over the last many years, let us shift our focus towards the solutions and what could be done to improve this hunger crisis in India. Now, there was a research article published by the London School of Economics, and it stated a lot of different possible solutions of what could be done to solve this hunger paradox in India. And it also argued that hunger issue is more about a distribution of food rather than its unavailability. And also it suggested that since hunger is a complex issue, it requires a multifaceted approach. And first thing it suggested was the overhaul of the agriculture sector in the country. So they suggested that agriculture is mired with a lot of problems: fragmented land holding, low levels of investment, low level of infrastructure, poor connectivity, and different other ways as well, and different other concerns as well. But tackling these issues requires implementation of state-of-the-art technologies and use of sustainable agriculture methods, and also limiting the non-agricultural use of agricultural land. And second solution was proposed in the overhauling of the public distribution system, that is the PDS system of the country. It needs to be fixed to provide targeted food distribution and overhaul in the midday meal scheme. So schemes like midday meal scheme could go to the locals for procurement of the food grains from the small farmers. And it could address this transportation problem as well, and wastage also would be solved. And it will definitely be helping in doubling the farmers' income in the country. Also, implementing technology to biometric authentication, GPS tracking will also help in reducing the leakages in PDS and improve more targeting. And one more solution was proposed in relation to climate smart agriculture. That means climate change threatens the global agriculture because of the change in the climate, because climate is directly associated with agriculture. So climate smart agriculture will improve the outcomes, reduce the impact of climate change, and will benefit the farmers financially and will help in tackling the problem of hunger also. And one more solution was related to reduction of food wastage levels. And according to a research by FAO, more than 1/3 of the food in India is wasted. And it requires a concentrated effort by the government, by the civil society, by the NPOs, and by the individuals to work on a mission mode to reduce this food wastage levels. So there are different examples, like Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, it is having Feed the Need initiative. And also there is one initiative of community fridges in Gurgaon, Haryana. And this is very crucial to solve the problem of food wastage and redistribution of excess food to those who require it the most. So there are different individual efforts like Robin Hood Army, which is there in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. And there is no food waste program also, which is also noteworthy and very important. So in the Robin Hood Army, basically the restaurant leftovers, they are collected and they are given to the needy people. And the No Food Waste program, it collects foods from weddings and other community events. Now there are different community collaborations as well. For example, Roti Bank, which is there in Bundelkhand, Uttar Pradesh, and it is also aiming to address local hunger. And amongst all these things, we can definitely incorporate and use the innovative methods which are used as best practices abroad. For example, we can take a case study of City Harvest in New York. Now this organization in New York, it collects the surplus food from restaurants and markets and it redistributes it to those who are in need. And they are using a lot of technology-driven solutions to provide this facility. And a similar model at a wider level, at a national level, could be established in our country to replicate this and to ensure that those who need the food, they get the food, and those who are having excess food, it can be redistributed to the needy people. It will definitely minimize the wastage and definitely help in solving the problem of hunger. Also, there is one more case study of Canada's Farm to School program, which is again very crucial. Now in this, the schools are partnering with the local farmers. So they provide local fresh produce to the schools, and in this there is a direct link created between the farmers and the schools. And this also helps the agriculture sector also, the farmers' income also, but it also reduces the disparity and it also reduces the level of hunger in the population amongst the schools. And now, since the solutions are very clear, let us quickly go through the governmental measures and what the government has done so far to reduce the levels of hunger in the country. Definitely the scope of improvement is there, but still, what has been the role of the government in this regard since independence? So there is Essential Commodities Act of 1955. There is National Food Security Act of 2013, that is public distribution system. There is National Food Security Mission. There is National Food Processing Mission. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana is there. National Horticulture Mission is there. Creation of ENAM is there for food security. 2023 year was declared as the International Year of Millets, Mega Food Park Scheme, different other schemes for the agriculture sector and food security sector in the country, and ensuring food security in the country have been in place since independence. And to reduce the levels of hunger, India has introduced different other programs as well. Whether it be Poshan Abhiyan, National Nutrition Mission, Mission Poshan 2.0, whether it be Midday Meal Scheme or it is Eat Right Movement. Indian government is also promoting food fortification for improving the micronutrients in the food. Also Integrated Child Development Service Scheme, also Poshan Tracker app, and Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana are different schemes which have been introduced by the government amongst many others to improve the level of hunger and to ensure that food security, malnutrition problem, food insecurity problem, and hunger problem in our country are tackled in the right way with the mission approach. See, on our earth, people are fighting to feed themselves and their children. But if we see very objectively, and if we see at a bird's eye view, we are having enough food to feed every single person on the planet. But still, more than 690 million people in the world, they sleep hungry, and including more than 200 million people in India also. Malnutrition has caused 69% of the child deaths in our country in the year 2019-2020, and the pandemic has amplified this crisis to greater heights. And to solve this issue, micro-level participation and micro-level engagement and micro-level mission mode solutions are required to ensure that we are able to eradicate hunger of all forms in our country. And eventually, we all need to work together, collectively and collaborate with each other. That means the government, the civil society, different NGOs, state governments also, and we as individuals as well. We should all work on a mission mode to eradicate all forms of hunger in our country by the year 2030 and achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2nd of zero hunger by the year 2030. Only then our growth, our GDP growth would be meaningful. Otherwise, it would just be growth and people won't be benefiting. I hope you gained a new perspective from this session. Please let me know in the comments section what can be different solutions to solve this hunger problem and what do you think how this hunger problem can be solved. I'll be very happy to read your comments. All the very best and have a beautiful day. Thank you and take care.